Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports. This is the JP Show.
JP, it is so good to hear you back on the air.
Stand by. Now, here's JP.
All right, welcome in to a Monday edition of the JP Peterson Show. Nick Geddes coming in solo today as JP is in the process of getting back over to the States from, I'll let him speak for himself on Tuesday's show, but it was an incredible start to his weekend there in Dublin, but obviously, as we know by now, it didn't exactly go the way that he or the entire FSU faithful were expecting. And even myself, I did not expect that at all. So I'm sure he still had a great time and everything. He's going to break that all down tomorrow. But we'll get into it today. This was a great weekend of sports, regardless of the outcome. If you're a Florida State fan, I'm sure a lot of the Florida fans and the Miami fans are all pretty jacked up at what happened to Florida State. But the first game of the season is in the books. We had some other peripheral games as well. The Bucks and the Dolphins, they have their final tune-up before the regular season. Got a chance to watch that as well on Friday night. And the Rays in L.A. and the arrival of Junior Caminero, the official breakout, if you will, of Junior Caminero. So we'll get into all that. As always, want to thank our great sponsors, the Jeeves Law Group. Scott Jeeves, he was over there with JP in Dublin, the Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Italiano Insurance, Golden Diamond Source, the Geddes Gordon Group, EPI, Third Generation Plumbing Services, and the Rogers Park Golf Course, and Cafe Paradiso as well. So let's jump into it. We're going to break down this Florida State-Georgia Tech game, an incredible upset. Maybe incredible is a little harsh. It was 11.5 spread going into this one, and there's no way around this. This was a horrific display from Florida State on Saturday afternoon. There's just no way around that. And I'll tell you right now, Mike Norvell and his entire coaching staff, all the way down to Adam Fuller and every other coach that they have there on that staff, they got outcoached. They got completely outcoached and outclassed in that game. And you look at it, it's so hard to pinpoint what went wrong because it felt like everything went wrong. Outside of Ryan Fitzgerald, who nailed a 52-yard field goal and a 59-yard field goal on a wet field, on a surface he's never kicked on before. Incredibly difficult to do. So he'll clearly get the shout out right here. But outside of Ryan Fitzgerald, I don't know if you'll find a single positive on this Florida State football team. And that, if you're a Florida State fan, is what has to be alarming. There's nothing you can go to and say, well, you know what, we did that well. Because they didn't. They didn't. And we'll get to DJU because, listen, college football Twitter is back, clearly, but the memes, we're in week 6 midseason form with the memes that were going around on DJU, who I felt bad for a little bit, and I'll get to that in a second. But everybody was focusing on the play of DJU, and did he have a great performance? No, he did not. Was he the main reason why Florida State lost that game? No, he is not. If you want to point your frustration somewhere and you want to go, where did Florida State lose that game? It was in the trenches. It was in the trenches. We talked a lot about that last week and why I thought, and many people thought, this was going to be the mismatch here, was FSU in the trenches versus Georgia Tech. You've had everybody all offseason talking up this Florida State defensive line. Pete Thamel of ESPN calling it the best defensive line in the entire country between Pat Payton, Darrell Jackson, Josh Farmer, and Marvin Jones Jr. And clearly, a lot of the sort of point made there about best defensive line in the country was made on potential. It was made on potential. Patrick Payton had a nice season last year, playing opposite of Jared Verse. Can he be the guy? Question mark. Darrell Jackson didn't play all last year because of the weird situation with the NCAA. So you're kind of judging him on potential and the fact that he's a physical freak. Josh Farmer, good season last year, but now he's got to be, close to an every down player. And Marvin Jones Jr., former big recruit, he was tucked away in Georgia's depth chart. He comes to Florida State. He's an immediate starter, but you're going off of what? Potential. But potential has to see its way through onto the field eventually. And none of those four guys, quite frankly, did their job. They, outside of Marvin Jones Jr., a couple plays I saw him get close to Haynes King. They really didn't do much. And Florida State ended that game with 0 sacks.
Time to get himself ready. Now we see what he can do on the field. He's dynamic. He's fast. He can make things happen.
And last year, you saw all the pressure in the world from Verse. You saw it from.
Seemed to be Jacoby Brissett was going to be the starter out of the gate. Health aside, it certainly seems like things are still trending in that direction.
All right. Well, I'm sure Gerard Mayo did not plan for first-time head coach, hire an entire new staff, and then have a quarterback decision that is going down to the wire.
Pat Burnham of the Osceola put up a nice clip on Twitter showing, one of the touchdown runs, and you got two guys who are playing, or you got the entire defensive line rather that's so spread out, and they're playing the B gap, and it leaves the A gap wide open. And what do you think they do? They turn around and hand it off to Jamal Haynes, and he walks in for a score. They kind of just gave it to him on the ground, and I don't think anybody was going to expect Georgia Tech to run for 190 yards on 36 carries and Florida State offensively to run for 98 yards on 31 carries. That's a 3.2 yard per average. Okay, that's Tampa Bay Buccaneers of last two seasons territory, and you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. So the defensive line was very disappointing, and that was supposed to be the strength of the entire team. And then that has to be cohesive with the linebacker play as well. And I lumped them in here because the whole front seven was a disaster. Man, Florida State has a linebacker problem. And I don't want to overreact after one game, but I'm not convinced that their linebacker issue is something that can be fixed this year, because you have who you have, and I'm just being honest with you, they just don't have anybody who's very good. I mean, DJ Lundy, he had 7 tackles in this game, a tackle for loss. I mean, he's probably better than what he showed out there, right? And I saw him have good moments last year. But the rest of that linebacker core was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful in that game. Omar Graham in particular. Omar Graham.
Abilities, but more importantly, his mental abilities. Do we all want to see him out there? Yes.
I hate to pick on one in this line.
I want Drake May to have that 15-plus year career with the New England Patriots and be able to say, I had this type of career with one team because my head coach is such a good instinct. So
he did not get on the box score, okay? He's just not a starting level linebacker at this level. And it's okay to say that. He's just not. When he was on the field, Florida State allowed an average of 6.2 yards per carry. He was off the field, and that was for 10 of the rushing attempts that Georgia Tech had. Florida State allowed 2.9 yards per carry. I mean, that's a pretty drastic difference right there, obviously. So don't love those FSU linebackers. And by the way, I've been saying it on this show for as long as I've been on, and I said it when they hired him a few years ago. Randy Shannon, and he obviously has made his rounds across the state of Florida. He was at Miami a while ago. He was at Florida. He was at UCF. Florida State brought him on in 2021 as an assistant. And then in 2022, he becomes co-DC with Adam Fuller, and he's the linebackers coach. And I was saying then, I don't understand how in the world Randy Shannon continues to get these types of high-level jobs, because he's just past it, quite frankly. He's just past it. And they don't recruit well. it's not a position that they seem to put a big emphasis on the recruiting trail. And so what you have, so you're just kind of left with what you have. And as we saw against Georgia Tech, it's clearly just not good enough. And not to mention, you lost 2 big impact players at those positions last year when your linebacker room was the best it had been in years, in Tatum Bethune, who's in the NFL, and Kalen DeLoach, who unfortunately did not make the 53-man roster. We'll see if he comes on the practice squad, but he was a damn good player for Florida State last year. So that's a situation that I'm not sure you're going to be able to fix. And that's what spells trouble to me for this Florida State team, is that front seven just completely got outclassed by Georgia Tech, and you have to really hand it to Brent Key. You have to hand it to Brent Key. As much as I thought Mike Norvell and Adam Fuller, this was a big whiff from a coaching standpoint, I thought Brent Key, they came in with a game plan, and it was simple. Pound the rock. Pound the rock, shorten the game, wear down Florida State, and they worked it to perfection. And then when you have a quarterback like Haynes King, and I don't think Haynes King was necessarily special in this game. The numbers are certainly not going to jump off the page. But credit to him, when Florida State did get pressure, he stood in the pocket, he took some hits, kept his eyes downfield, and he made some really, really strong throws that just sort of kept the chains moving for Georgia Tech. When he got out in space, I mean, these Florida State backers and these guys on the defensive backfield just couldn't tackle. I mean, that was the other alarming thing. Nobody on that Florida State team could tackle. I'd be curious to see how many missed tackles Florida State got credited with in that game, because you had guys who were on skates. I don't know if it was a field issue or what. I didn't see the same issue on Georgia Tech. I'll tell you that one, so you can't use it as an excuse. But how many times you see runs, they'd go up right up the middle, they'd get to the second level, and you think you have linebackers near them, and then all of a sudden that running back would break free.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a play that was going around, and to go back to Omar Graham, where he's got his back completely turned to Jamal Haynes, the running back, just completely just out of position and reckless. You have Devontae Brown, who we talked about with Pat Burnham last week, the transfer coming in from played at UCF for a few years and then Miami last year, and you give him the starting job. Why? Because he's had like 40-something career starts, but you look at the quality of a player, Devontae Brown, again, it's just not at this level. It's not at this level, and he was another one. He was all over the place. He couldn't make tackles. He was on skates on that field, and it's another big problem for Florida State. And you can't cover every wart with a transfer portal. Eventually you have to stack really good recruiting classes, and you have to develop some of your own players. And Florida State last year had the transfer haul of a lifetime come in when you look at a Keon Coleman, when you look at a Jaheim Bell, when you look at a Trey Benson, a Johnny Wilson, a Braden Fisk, a Jared Verse. I mean, you go on and on and on. Bethune, over the last couple years, like the hit rate in the transfer portal is unreal. And after game one, you're sort of looking at these transfers who they brought in, and it's like, can any of them play? Can any of them play? And right now, the answer is no. Again, it's one game, but safe to say this is not a top 10 team in the nation. And that's why sometimes, the AP poll and the preseason rankings before anybody's even played it down, they kind of are what they are. And I have a hard time believing that Florida State's really going to remain in the ranking, to be honest with you, because Georgia Tech was sort of seen as a middle-of-the-road ACC team, and who knows, maybe they're better than what many people thought they were. That's why we played the games, folks. That's why we played the games. But in terms of the expectations coming in and people predicting Florida State to be in a playoff, they got an uphill battle there. Because I know you lose one game, and in this new era of college football with the playoff, that's sort of been the thing. Like, oh, you can afford to lose a game now. Well, you start to look at it. You dropped one game that you really needed to have. You still got to play Notre Dame at South Bend. It's not easy. You still got to play Clemson. You still got to go to Miami. And the Florida game at the end of the year, say what you want about Florida all you want, it's always going to be a dogfight. And you still have some other interesting games sprinkled in there, like SMU, and Memphis, and North Carolina. All of a sudden, the outlook for this Florida State team has changed dramatically than what we thought before kickoff on Saturday afternoon. So that's sort of my recap of what I saw defensively from that Florida State team. Now, offensively, again, this was an incredible job by Brent Key and the game plan. They shortened this game for Florida State on offense, and I found this very interesting. There were only 14 possessions in that game between Georgia Tech and Florida State. There was 7 for each team, and a few of those drives for Georgia Tech were like 6, 7, 8-minute drives where they were just run. Florida State could not stop it, could not get off the field. But 14 possessions in one game, that's the fewest in any FBS game played since November 28th, 2020. And that is a job well done right there by Georgia Tech for what they were able to do for that game. And when they had their possessions, they took advantage of them. Florida State, not really. And that first drive of the game, I mean, Florida State comes right out, and you're curious. We had all these question marks about the offense and what's going to happen, and who are going to be the impact players. Immediately they get Roydell Williams involved. And then you see Jalen Lucas come in, the transfer from Indiana, who's very shifty and very exciting with the ball in his hands. And it's like, okay, he can do something. And then Toafili, who was the ACC championship game MVP last year against Louisville, he gets the 28-yard touchdown run, and you're like, damn, Florida State's here to play. But Georgia Tech eventually adjusted and caught on to what Florida State was doing. And it's clear to me that the game plan was clearly to try to run the ball, and I don't know if they were trying to hide DJU. I do know that when you try to hide a quarterback, eventually a defense is going to take advantage of that. Florida State became way too one-dimensional on offense for large stretches of that game. Even when Georgia Tech had caught on to what they were doing in the run game, because Florida State did have success early running the football, but Georgia Tech caught on to it. I mean, there was a while there, I think DJU started the game out 12 for 14, and it was like, oh, he's 12 for 14. But, like, the average depth of target was, like, less than a yard. Like, they just refused to attack down the field. And I imagine as a Florida State fan, it had to be very frustrating to watch. And Mike Norvell just kept going to the run game. Even late in the fourth quarter, it's like he was just banging his head into a wall. It wasn't going anywhere, but he kept doing it. And on that last drive that Florida State got the football back, I mean, they had to convert, 2 or 3 fourth and longs to even keep that drive going. And DJU finally was able to get some time in the pocket and make some good throws down the field. But it was just too little, too late. And, I tweeted it out there in the second quarter. It's like, okay, I understand what you're trying to do, but this is a fifth-year quarterback. This is a fifth-year quarterback. This isn't a true freshman. This isn't a situation like last year where Brock Lynn or Tate Rodemaker is coming in fresh, and you sort of have to change your entire way of how you play the offense. It's a fifth-year quarterback. And how telling is it that in game 1 of the season of DJU's 5th year, Florida State looked like they were sort of hiding him. Not great. And DJU is one of those quarterbacks. It's like I said this when Florida State brought him in. He is not leading you to a college. He's not leading you to a national championship. There's no way. He's just not that guy. And I think a lot of people have fooled themselves into thinking that someone can make him that guy. Clemson couldn't do it. He had some success at Oregon State, but here at Florida State, thinking that Mike Norvell is just going to suddenly turn him into a high impact player in his 5th year. I think that's just, I think it's tomfoolery, quite frankly. If he was so good, he wouldn't be in his 5th year of college football. He'd be in the NFL.
See this? This is a miscommunication.
And I don't think it was all DJU.
Zach Frazier, who
I mean, he can only run the plays that are called. And as I said, later in the game, he made some really good throws, and maybe there's something there you can build on. But the other concern here was the receiver group. And this was absolutely going into the season, if you were looking at a weakness on this Florida State team and on this Florida State offense, it was that receiver group. Keon Coleman ain't walking through that door. Johnny Wilson's not walking through that door.
It's over, guys. The next game they play will be
Destin Hill, obviously injured, not coming through that door. And we heard a lot about Malik Benson in the offseason, and how he was impressing, the Alabama transfer. But the leading receiver in this game was Ja'Kai Douglas. 4 catches for 55 yards. And it's nothing against Ja'Kai, but again, Ja'Kai Douglas, this is his 5th year at Florida State. Career high receiving yards came back in 2021, 255. If Ja'Kai Douglas is going to be Florida State's leading receiver, then we might as well start pushing the panic button on this Florida State team. I'm anxious to really dive into a replay of this game and see how much separation these receivers were getting. I have to think that was a part of this, but at the same time, they took it. I mean, the first deep shot they took in this game, by the way, it wasn't even to a receiver. It was to Toafili. Like, that was when I first went, ooh, now they're trying to attack downfield for the first time, and it's not even going to any of these receivers. It's going to Toafili. But there was earlier in the game, they had a deep shot. DJU tried to hit Malik Benson on the right sideline.
Next to the Allegheny River, ready to prove
he threw it out of bounds. He's receiver.
Who's been making waves and won't back down. It's the electrifying lightning field. Steel City, there's only one thing left to
and
do.
Then they get a deep shot. I think it was a play action, and DJ throws a rope downfield. It looked pretty coming out of his hand. And then obviously we saw that he underthrew the receiver. And if he hits his receiver right there, that's a touchdown. And we got a completely different ball game. So while I don't think that DJU is primarily the reason why Florida State lost this game, he certainly played a role in it, because in the opportunities that he did in the first 3 quarters of that game to push the ball down the field, he missed some opportunities. And even in that third quarter, I think Florida State had like 30-something yards of offense in that third quarter. And that was the quarter where Georgia Tech sort of, the momentum changed. And that's where you first thought, like, oh, wow, this is an upset brewing here. And you saw what you had. The offensive line, again, was another area of strength you thought coming into this game for Florida State. Now, Darius Washington, he might be the best left tackle in the entire ACC. Saw some of his advanced numbers. He did not give up a single pressure in that game on all the dropbacks. So Darius Washington did his job at left tackle. I think Jeremiah Byers got picked on a little bit at right tackle. So, I mean, the offensive line, it's not like they were bad necessarily, but they were just okay. And they got bullied in the run game. And Florida State, again, we talked about it. Historically, Florida State has always been that team that had the high level quarterback and was able to push the ball down the field. Elite athleticism at the receiver room. And how telling is it? And I know Hakeem Williams, I mean, he didn't play in this game. He has an injury, and he was obviously a 5-star recruit. But how telling it is that at this level, at Florida State, they don't have any high-impact receivers jumping out at you. Like, that's a problem. That is an absolute problem when it comes to what they're doing from a recruiting standpoint, that they do not have their receiver room well-stocked, and you're relying on a transfer, Malik Benson, who didn't play much at Alabama. You're relying on a transfer from LSU, Jalen Brown, who didn't play much there. to be your starting wideouts and a fifth-year receiver in Ja'Kai Douglas who hasn't had much production in those 5 years. I mean, man, there's just not much there for you to, like, again, be excited about. So just from all facets, like I said, take Ryan Fitzgerald out of the equation. This was an epic failure for Florida State in the first game of the season. It was. And like I said, it's hard to figure out anything that you can get excited about with this team at this moment. And it's been a noisy offseason for Florida State, coming off the snub and the lawsuit and trying to get out of the ACC, which are all things they should be trying to do. And I don't want to get all into that and go down that rabbit hole. But it's just one of those things where you go out and lay an egg like that, and it's the first game of the season. Everybody's watching it. And Florida State fans have been very loud and vocal and everything. And then that happens. I mean, it was an epic egg on your face moment, is all I'm going to say. It really was. So they've got their work cut out for them. Even going back to the defensive line, reading through my notes here, they recorded 4 total pressures in that game. And for context, I mean, that would have been the least amount of pressures that they recorded in a single game last season. And even against Louisville in that ACC championship game, they recorded 32 of them. They had 4. They had 4 in this game. And that right there was supposed to be the best defensive line in the country, by the way.
And not to mention,
so
you need a quarterback back there.
Take that for what it's worth. Florida State again. Now they got Boston College coming up on Labor Day next Monday. And that game historically, again, for Florida State has always been very tricky for them. And last year, remember, it was a very, very close game in the fourth quarter. Florida State won that one 31-29 against Boston College. And the reason why I'm concerned is because I just saw what Haynes King was able to do, moving outside of the pocket and whenever he had to scramble, and how FSU just could not tackle him. Here comes Thomas Castellanos, who a lot of people may not be familiar with. I'm very familiar with him because he was one of UCF's highest-rated quarterback recruits ever, transferred to Boston College, dual threat guy. He rushed for over 1,000 yards last year from the quarterback position and had some really good moments in that game against Florida State last year. So now you kind of look towards that. There's some concern there. Like, as far as I'm concerned, everything's on the table. There are no gimmies for Florida State. There just aren't. I mean, you look at the schedule for Florida State this season.
I know, I do, and you do.
I mean, I'll run through it real quick. Boston College, Memphis, Cal, SMU, Clemson, Duke, Miami, North Carolina, Notre Dame, Charleston Southern, Florida. I mean, outside of Charleston Southern, there might not be the gimmies there that you thought there were. Again, try not to overreact. And I understand there's a lot of moving parts here with this Florida State team. And you're not going to be the same team in week 1 that you are later in the season. But again, this was a pretty horrific display. And for right now, there has to be some degree of concern. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm recording this a night earlier, so I won't be able to necessarily interact with y'all with the comments. But as always, please chime in with your thoughts. We're going to hit a break here. When we come back, I'm going to go through the Bucks and Dolphins from Friday night. The Bucks get the win. Does not matter. But there were some things that did matter in that game that I'm excited to get to, as we saw the starters on offense take the field for the first time in the preseason, and they had some really good results. So we'll dive into that. Again, thank you to all of our sponsors. We will be back in 3. Stay with us.
They just signed a bunch of money to.
Well, you know what? I think he's going to tap into that.
Celebrate August with the dazzling green hue of peridot, known for its vibrant and refreshing sparkle. Yes, that's the birthstone of August at the Gold and Diamond Source. Explore the Gold and Diamond Source's stunning collection of peridot jewelry, showcasing the gemstone's unique glow and versatility in rings, necklaces, and earrings. Peridot's distinctive color makes it a standout choice for any occasion, adding a touch of elegance and charm to your ensemble. Enjoy 15% off when you shop August Gems online only. Stop by the Gold and Diamond Source to experience the allure of August Gem and let their expert staff help you find the perfect peridot piece. It's the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Olmsted Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. Hey, it's football season, so we welcome back the FSU Football Report every Monday and Friday on the JP Peterson Show, sponsored by those huge FSU fans at Italiano Insurance. Folks, they've been 60 years, named the Small Business of the Year Chamber of Commerce, mostly because of their incredible customer service. So they'll save you money as well. Just do a quick insurance checkup, 813-877-7799. They just saved me $500 on homeowners insurance. Who's doing that? Yeah, they just shopped it around, found a better, cheaper company, and we got a cheaper price. And business insurance, make sure you're covered or you can lose your personal wealth. That's 813-877-7799, ItalianoInsurance.com. Go Noles.
Hey, Tampa Bay sports fans. This is two-time LPGA major champion Jane Geddes here. After winning the U.S. Open and 10 other LPGA events, I wanted to try something completely different. So I came right off the top turnbuckle and landed in the crazy world of WWE. And yes, you heard that right. That's WWE. Working for the Vince McMahon as the VP of Talent Relations for the company. Now, though, I want to work for you. Everything I've done in my life, I've done with incredible passion. And now I've turned my focus to leading the best real estate team in Tampa Bay, the Geddes Gordon Group with Keller Williams in South Tampa. If you're looking for a new home, an investment property, or looking to sell your current home, we will give you major championship level service. When you choose Geddes Gordon Group, you become part of our inner circle, like family. So if you're looking for a few golf tips or a golf course review, we're going to stripe it right down the fairway. Call me at 813-485-6808 or go to GettysGordonGroup.com, or again, give me a ring at 813-485-6808.
JP here for Third Generation AC and Plumbing. And Third Generation really says it all, folks. The owner, my friend John Rodriguez, has been in the AC and plumbing business since 1995. They built their business on honest assessments and doing great work on to sell new AC units, and you might just need a drain cleared. So if you want someone you can trust, that's John Rodriguez in Third Generation Services. Check out the 5-star Google reviews. If you have a plumbing or AC emergency, call 813-961-8024 and a human will answer the phone. That's 813-961-8024 or go to thirdgenerationplumbing.com.
Ciao, Paolo Tini here, owner of Caffè Paradiso, one of South Tampa premier traditional Italian restaurants. We were recently voted number 3 at an open table list of Tampa Bay's top 10 restaurants. We're very proud of that because we take great care of preparing each dish by hand with homemade sauces, pastas, only the freshest local ingredients. You won't see the big institutional vendor trucks pulling up to our back door. We get our seafood from local vendors. Sometimes I even drive out to Tarpon Springs and pick out our daily catch right off those boats. So stop by and say hello. Try our traditional lasagna, the fresh veal, some of our signature dishes like capelli al granchio, that is angel hair with lump crab meat, our branzino, that is a sea bass. We're located at 4205 South McGill, and you can make a reservation on Open Table and read all the great reviews. See you soon. Ciao. Grazie.
Yes,
let's go. Right now, back to the show on Fanstream Sports.
For the first time this training camp Sunday, Jason.
All right, welcome back to a Monday edition of the JP Peterson Show. Nick Geddes filling in solo today. JP is going to be back at it on Tuesday's show, and he's going to recap everything from disappointing end to his trip in Dublin, which still looked like fun. I still had major FOMO at the fact that I was not there, but I will be at the UCF opener on Thursday, which they take on New Hampshire. So shouldn't be any surprises there when it comes to my UCF Knights, but we'll see. So I'll be in attendance for that. So looking forward to getting over to the bounce house. But switching gears here, we did have the Bucks and the Dolphins in preseason the other night, and the Bucks won the game, whatever. But this was the first time we got to take a look at this Bucks first string offense completely all together. Go out there minus Mike Evans, who doesn't need to play. Him and Levante David were the two vets that got off. No reason for them to be out there. And I was curious to see how much work they were going to get, and they made it very easy on Todd Bowles and the coaching staff because, man, they were in and they were out, and it was quick and it was lethal. 7 plays, 70 yards, averaging a first down per play, and they go right down the field and score. That is the first time, ladies and gentlemen, that the Bucs offense has scored a touchdown on its opening drive in 23 games, and that's including last season as well. So, definitely an encouraging sight there. We saw Baker Mayfield. He only attempted 3 passes, and 2 of them were screens. But you got to be very excited at the fact that he threw a beautiful, beautiful ball to Jalen McMillan, and he kind of threw it into double coverage, but it was one of those throws where you got to throw it to the back shoulder. Baker knew it, and he hit Jalen McMillan perfectly. I mean, absolutely perfect. And the ball control in the air from Jalen McMillan was outstanding. It was the stuff that we've been seeing all training camp from him, and clearly it's carried over into these games, and hopefully it translates to the regular season. And the Bucs at the moment look like they have an absolute steal on their hands. I've been saying that he kind of reminds me of what Chris Godwin was in 2017. Both third-round picks, very under the radar, a lot of college production, and immediately were stars of camp preseason. And you saw Chris Godwin in his rookie season on a very high note. Jalen McMillan, he's the third wide receiver. I don't think anybody's even close to him. I know there's a lot of talk about these receiver spots and who's going to fill out 4, 5, 6, or 7 if they keep 7. Raheem Jarrett's going to start the year on IR, so that opens up a spot for them. It sounds like Cameron Johnson has made this team. Rondé sort of gave that away on the broadcast, and we got a chance to take a look at him too in that game for the first time of this preseason. And the numbers, again, they don't pop out at you, but they were able to get him involved. You saw them get him involved in the running game a little bit, and you could tell there's some excitement there and something to build off of. Trey Palmer is going to be there. Cody Thompson, again, I mean, hell of a connection with Kyle Trask, I'll tell you that one. And I would be shocked at this point if Cody Thompson does not make this football team. But again, going back to the starters, it really was about this run game with the Bucs. That has been the most encouraging thing I've seen so far this entire training camp and preseason is the run game. Rachaad White, 4 carries for 16 yards, and the score. You saw him get involved in the passing game too with a 17-yard catch where the blocking was outstanding on that. Bucky Irving comes in 4.3 yards per carry. Sean Tucker, not as great of a night as he had the first 2 games, but he did have a 12-yard run. He did display some of that explosiveness. So the run game, again, just continues to get better and better. And this offensive line, I mean, we were raving about Graham Barton and Elijah Klein for the job they were doing. We got a chance to see Tristan Wirfs in this game. Ben Bredesen gets in there, and Luke Gedeke. We got to see that first team offensive line go at it. Now, they were going up against Miami's backups, so you might have to say take it with a grain of salt, but I mean, they bullied them. They absolutely bullied them. I mean, you go back to that 4-yard touchdown run from Rachaad White. Keep an eye on 67, Luke Gedeke. He carries his man 5 yards up the field into the end zone and finished. You saw Graham Barton finishing on guys. You saw Cody Malk. I thought Ben Bredesen was fantastic. Yes, we know what we're going to get at Tristan Wirfs. The offensive line, it's amazing with the bad luck that they've had over the last few years with Ali Marpet's early retirement and then the career-ending injury to Ryan Jensen. I mean, you took 2 Pro Bowl guys right out of that offensive line, and sometimes that could take years to sort of fix. And I'm not saying they fixed it all because we still got to see this play out in real games, but Graham Barton looks like a player. Luke Gedeke, again, He's had a quietly really strong camp. Not a people have been talking about him. I don't know if Luke Gedicke's a Pro Bowl type right tackle, but you think about a guy like DeMar Dotson. DeMar Dotson was a starting right tackle on this Buccaneer team for about a decade and wasn't a Pro Bowl guy, but you just knew what you were going to get. He was just solid, nothing flashy. I think that's sort of the ceiling and the vibe that I get from Luke Gedicke. And if Luke Gedicke is starting at right tackle for the next 10 years alongside Tristan Wirfs, I mean, listen, the Bucs have been looking for that for the majority of their near 50 years as a franchise. So a lot to be encouraged there. Cody Mauch, again, second year. He just looks like he's playing with more physicality. And Graham Barton was fantastic. I can't even think of many plays where I said, "Ooh, Graham didn't look good there." No, he's looked good across the board. And I'm going to play the video here. I love the Baldy breakdowns. Brian Baldinger from NFL Network does a great job scouting the offensive line play. We've played a lot of his videos from the first two games. He's keeping his eye on this Buccaneer offensive line, very high on him, and for a lot of reason. Here was his breakdown this week, and just take a look at how these Buccaneer offensive linemen were finishing in this game.
The Bucs went 7 plays, 70 yards for a touchdown on the opening drive. Watch Barton right here. It starts with Barton, his ability to hook. Now, you get good backside push by Wirfs and by Bredeson. Good job by Otten. You pick up a solid 4 on first down. Now you get 2nd and 6. Again, it starts with Barton. Like, no penetration. Now look at the push with Gedicke right here and Mauch and Otten. And look at Rachaad White. Like, he's just picking them up and putting them down and just dancing. And then you get Barton just finishing. That's a beautiful sight right there. All right, now you get 3rd and 1. Can you move it on 1 yard when you need a yard? 3rd and 1. Good push, right? Rachaad White's going to see it. Just follow the daylight. All right, now you get this right here. Because it's one thing when you can push in the middle, but can you get to the perimeter? The perimeter game is as important as anything else. Now, you go play action. I love this play. Play action, screen away, 3-count screen. Rachaad White set up, and here they are. Wirfs picking off a different color jersey. Barton picking off a jersey. And Mauch looking for somebody to hit. Now, Rachaad White has got a lot of daylight there for 17 yards. And then, can you finish? It's a lot easier from the 4-yard line to run it in than to throw it. Less bad things happen if you can just run it. So let's just see the double teams at the point right here. Otten is really doing a great job. Look at this daylight right here, down inside the 5. Rachaad White doesn't get touched. If it was flag football, nobody ripped the flag off him. He walks into the end zone. Good night at work. Baker and the whole group. Oh, that kid also, Jalen McMillan, had the big catch. Good start.
It's just good stuff. I mean, I could watch offensive line play like that. I watch it for fun. It's my most favorite thing to watch when it comes to football is watching those guys go to work on the offensive line. And the Bucs, like I said, have been bullying people in this preseason. And if that translates to the regular season, I mean, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be dangerous on offense. I mean, 23rd ranked offense in the league last year. They lose Dave Canales, and a lot of people that are not as plugged in to Tampa Bay, think the sky is falling and that Atlanta has gone out and made their team exponentially better. I mean, especially in the last week or so when you bring in a Judon and you bring in a Justin Simmons. I mean, Judon is 32 years old and he's coming off an injury that forced him to miss most of the season last year. So, I don't know if he's going to be asked to be the number 1 pass rusher at this point in his career with not much help around him. I'm not saying it wasn't a move that Atlanta should have made, but let's temper our expectations on what they're going to get out of Judon. I respect the Justin Simmons signing. He's not the player maybe he used to be, but Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, if you put that head-to-head with Antoine Winfield and Jordan Whitehead, I mean, Bates and Winfield almost cancel each other out, and I would take Justin Simmons over Jordan Whitehead. So, Atlanta's going to be a factor, but I think a lot of people are expecting the Bucs to take a step back this year and regress because I think the idea was that last year they overachieved a little bit and they looked like they were ahead of their rebuild. But I see a lot of the same team obviously return this year and throw into the fact that Yaya Diaby's in year 2 and Kalijah Cansey's in year 2. You look at the impact that Barton and McMillan and potentially Tyke Smith could have in year one as rookies. Like, I think this Bucks team takes a step forward, if anything. I don't think they regress really. So I'm very excited about this season. I'm happy that preseason is over with, and we're getting very, very close to week one against the Washington Commanders at home, which is going to be a fun one. So definitely excited for that. We've already seen some of the cuts sort of transpire here. We saw a lot of them come on Sunday. Nothing super surprising. I mean, Tanner Canoe was a guy, again, he was competing for one of those receiver spots. He had a hell of a catch in that preseason finale. Kyle Trask threw a beautiful ball to him. I thought this was the best Kyle Trask, by the way, has looked probably his entire time here in the preseason. I thought he played really well against Miami. So with John Wolford, the injury, wrong time for an injury, obviously. Didn't get a chance to play in that game. So Kyle Trask is your backup quarterback. And I thought all things considered, his preseason went better than it did the last few seasons. Some other notes. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it does matter. Jake Camarda. Todd Bowles said last week that Jake's got to be better at punting the football. It has just not really gone his way in this preseason. And in this game, he averaged 42 yards a punt. 42 yards a punt. I don't know what's going on with Jake Camarda. They obviously had brought in Nolan Cooney off the street to provide him a little bit of competition. And Nolan Cooney got a chance to punt in this game. And he hit a 63-yard punt, which was incredible. Now, he did get waived. But Todd Bowles has mentioned the possibility of keeping a second punter on the roster. So it would not surprise me if they keep Nolan Cooney around, because it appears Jake Camarda is on a pretty short leash, which, again, I didn't really see coming. Now, I don't think he had a perfect year last year by any means, and we've talked about it, sometimes outpunting his coverage and stuff like that. But it's been bizarre. It's been really, really bizarre from Jake Camarda and his performance here in camp and in the preseason game. So it's certainly something to watch for. And Todd Bowles, by the way, pretty blunt. He said on Saturday, it's not an area. So it's just something on it, but it's been one of the more sort of challenges the Bucks have faced so far this preseason. So we'll keep an eye on that. I thought the standout of this game defensively was Antonio Greer, who obviously many of the USF folks know. He was a standout USF linebacker, went over to Arkansas. Thought he played really well. 7 tackles. He had a pass defense in there. He had an interception. He was all over the place. So this linebacker sort of competition, I mean, we haven't gotten a chance to see Servastier Dennis, but I think he's still going to make this team. But Kalen Deloach, as I mentioned earlier, he gets waived. We'll see if he makes the practice squad. It just didn't really get a chance to see him in the preseason. Injury at the wrong time. J.J. Russell, I thought, really picked up his play in this preseason, had some good moments. Obviously, we know Britt's going to start alongside Levante David. So I do think that's probably going to be the 4 guys that make this squad, and then we'll see what happens with Greer and Deloach. At the time I'm recording, there haven't been any news on Antonio Greer, but I still think he probably is facing an uphill battle to make this squad. And I also think that it's going to be interesting to see what they do on the defensive line, because I don't know how you keep CJ Brewer off this football team. He's really flashed in this preseason. Now, he's a 26-year-old rookie from Coastal Carolina. So well, he's 26 years old, so what flashes out of him than I saw in a guy like Mike Green, for example, who was able to get some playing time on this football team. So, and again, CJ Brewer the other night had 2 tackles for CJ, and one of those for loss. He had a pass defense as well. Was able to hit the quarterback. So I think CJ Brewer and Ernest Brown, the 4, if they've had a healthy competition going there, I think for that last defensive tackle spot, I think Corey Brewer, I probably would give the edge over Ernest Brown right now. And I think he makes this 53-man roster. I already mentioned Raheem Jarrett and Chase Edmonds are going to start the season on IR, so that gives them some flexibility to keep the 2 extra players. I think that's what helps CJ Brewer out. The cornerback position is also going to be really interesting to see how that works out. I think that Keenan Isaac, to be honest with you, if we're just going off of who's had the best training camp, who's looked the best in the preseason, I think Keenan Isaac has to be cornerback 3 on this team. I really do. I think he's earned that through his Thomas, Funderburk as well, who got an injury at the wrong time too. I mean, there's a lot of guys sort of in the mix, and we'll see. I think they probably keep 9 or 10 defensive backs, but Keenan Isaac, I think, not only has to be on this team, I think he's got to be cornerback 3, and I've seen that through his play. So there you go, a little breakdown there of that Bucs game against the Dolphins. Again, like what I saw from the first team offense, I think that's the most encouraging thing. And now the preseason's in the rearview mirror. And the next time we see this Buccaneer team, it's actually going to matter. And I'm jacked up for it. I know everybody here in Tampa Bay is as well. I'm going to hit a break. When I come back, and this is an abbreviated show, by the way, so not going to go the full 2-hour length today. When I come back, I'm going to recap a little bit of the Rays from this past weekend over in Los Angeles and the breakout of Junior Caminero. We're going to hit that again. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors, the Jeeves Law Group, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Italiano Insurance, the Golden Diamond Source, the Geddes Gordon Group, EPI, Third Generation Plumbing Service, the Rogers Park Golf Course, and Cafe Paradiso. We will be back in 3. Stick with us.
Hey, it's football season, and we welcome back the Gator Report every Monday and Friday, sponsored by the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Just go to the website. You can contact them through there. Scott Jeeves is a tremendous, aggressive attorney and a big Gator fan, so we appreciate him supporting this show and, of course, your Florida Gators. They are local, they are trusted, and they get results, whether it's personal injury or anything else, any law matter at all, it's the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. Give them a call. Tell them JP sent you.
All right, this is for all you guys who don't want to go to the gym and do 5,000 crunches. At Bay Area Modern Medical Center, you can get on the new True Body doing 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Muscle stimulation that delivers the equivalent of those 54,000 crunches in just 15 minutes. Just get in touch with them at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com. Chris Lugo and the team over there will set you up on TrueBody and get amazing results. Non-invasive with comfortable and little to no pain and zero downtime. You can isolate and target those areas that you want to improve and treat multiple areas simultaneously. It's an amazing machine, so check it out at Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMMC.com.
JP here to ask the question, are you planning an event, meeting, or conference? If so, you'll want to call the designers and production professionals at Extravaganza Productions Incorporated. With over 35 years of experience in the events industry, designing and producing every type of small to large event, they can provide a huge resource for design ideas, audio, visual, sound, lighting, decor, and entertainment to turn your event into an incredible experience for the entire audience. Folks, I've worked up close and personal with this group at many national events and Tampa events, and they have unique capabilities that help you save time and money in the planning and execution of your next event. Don't delay. Call these pros today at 813-621-4700 or check out their website at extravaganzaproductions.com. Tell them JP sent you, and they'll provide a free initial consultation for your event. Extravaganza Productions, the best in the business. Golfers, listen up. The hottest new driving range craze has come to Rogers Park in Tampa. The Top Tracer range is now open 10 to 9 p.m. And just like you see on TV, every shot is tracked for yardage and accuracy, giving you immediate feedback. And best of all, you can virtually play the top courses like Pebble Beach or St. Andrews with your buddies. Plus, great food and drink options available in the well-appointed hitting bays. Very comfortable out there. Reservations highly recommended, starting at $25 per hour, including balls. Reserve at RogersParkGolf.net. That's RogersParkGolf.net. See you there.
Let's go.
Right now. Back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on Monday. Had a great recap of the Florida State upset defeat at the hands of Georgia Tech at the beginning of the show. Missed that? Be sure to find it. Going to end today's show here with a little bit on the Rays. Had to face the almighty Dodgers, who have the best record in all of baseball, which is to nobody's surprise. But the Rays, give them credit, so they lose 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers up there. But you can't accuse the Rays of mailing it in. I mean, we've had moments with certain players who don't look as engaged, I guess is a way to put it. But as an overall team, they're still fighting. And obviously that's encouraging to see. I think it's less about the results at the moment, and you're just sort of looking for certain players, certain young guys that you know are going to be out this future, that are going to be here in the future, and what they do. And none more important than Junior Caminero, he is starting to figure out Major League pitching just a little bit. The home run, he hits his first home run of the season on Friday night, and the sound off the bat was, I mean, I was just sitting on the couch and I was kind of scrolling through my phone, and then, I heard the sound of the bat and I looked up and I was like, holy crap. There's a reason why Junior Caminero on that whole prospect scale thing where they give the guys like a 20 through 80 score on all the traits. There's a reason why Junior Caminero had like an 80, which is like on the hit score, which is like the highest that you can grade out on. He hits the ball hard. We saw that a lot in Durham this season during his stint there, and we're starting to see it now. Going into Sunday's game, he had a stretch where the last 8 balls he had put into play, 7 of them had an exit velocity of above 100 miles an hour, 6 of them over 105, and 3 of them over 110. The following day, late in the game, he hits a game-tying home run in the 9th inning to dead center. I mean, both of his home runs, the first one to right center, and then the second one was to dead center, and both of them were absolute just ropes out there. So Junior Caminero is starting to figure out Major League pitching. That's an encouraging sign. That's what we're looking for. Still scratching my head why he was not brought up earlier in the season. We'll never get the full answer to that question from the Rays probably. But he's here now. He's here now, and we're going to enjoy this sample size we get from him before next season. He's right there in the middle of your order. I mean, if I'm the Rays, I'd give the guy one of those longer term deals right now. Like, I know it's only been, not even a couple weeks, but you've seen that trend across the majors with guys who come up who are top prospects and they get those long contracts. You get them signed for a long time through their prime years on a pretty affordable rate. I would do that in a heartbeat if I were the Rays, because the future of your franchise is Junior Caminero. And it's been exciting to watch him play. And again, his defense, everybody talks about his defense not being a strong suit. I haven't seen anything that suggests that he can't play defense and that he can't be a full-time third baseman. I think he's been pretty good over there as well. So definitely the most encouraging thing I saw from this Dodgers series. And by the way, I mean, they were a few plays away from sweeping this series. Even on Friday night, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead, and then it goes to 3-3. And then the ninth inning, I mean, what a brutal way to lose. Shohei Ohtani, who I swear, I mean, Ohtani crushes everybody, but every time that Ohtani steps in the batter's box and he's facing Rays pitching, and this goes back to his rookie year, I feel like, with the Angels, and he had a cycle then in like 2018, I believe it was. Like, he just crushes the Rays. He crushes them. And it's like a scene out of a movie. I mean, he hits a walk-off grand slam on Friday night to record his 40th home run, and now he's at, 40-40? I mean, I don't even know. I'm struggling to, find the words to describe the greatness of Shohei Ohtani. Him and Aaron Judge right now, it's like they're just going tat for tat. I mean, 41 home runs and 40 stolen bases. And by the way, that would be insane for anybody. This is a guy who tore his UCL. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable what Shohei Ohtani is doing this year in year one of Los Angeles, in year one of that $700 million, whatever contract it was. It's wild stuff. Absolutely wild stuff. So he's fun to watch, even when he's mashing against the Rays. And then, of course, in the Sunday afternoon game, 1-1 game there in the bottom of the eighth. And Richard Lovelady comes in. And by the way, if I'm going to critique something, I'm not sure why Richard Lovelady is in that spot. I mean, here comes Ohtani, here comes Betts, and here comes Freeman up to the plate. And the Rays are sending out Richard Lovelady. Okay. He hits Ohtani. And then Mookie Betts, again, one of the best players in baseball, takes him yard. It's 3-1 and the game's over. So, I mean, maybe I would have liked to have seen Edwin Uceda. I know they've been using him more in high-leverage situations. I mean, I thought Rasmussen maybe could have been available. Richard Lovelady would have not been my choice. Of course, it's easy for me to say that in hindsight, but I like to think Kevin Cash would like to have that one back. So they drop 2 out of 3. They go right back down to 500. And again, that is the 31st time this year the Rays have fallen right back down to 500. The single season record, by the way, at that, I've been keeping tabs on this. The single season record for games spent at 500, the 1959 Cubs, that was 35 times. The Rays are at 31. And they still got plenty of time to break that record. So this just in, the Rays are average. They're very average. My other note from this, last note from this weekend, Taj Bradley, he had an incredible July. He was the best pitcher in baseball throughout July, at least the American League. And it was like, wow, Taj Bradley is starting to come in age before our eyes. Well, August has been a different story. He's had 5 starts since the calendar flipped over to August. The Rays are 1-4 of those games, and his ERA is 7.96. And he's given up 7 home runs, 23 runs total, 9 walks in 5 games. So Taj Bradley looks like he's clearly hit a little bit of a wall here. Again, he's now 19 starts into this season, so I don't know if he's starting to get a little gassed. He's only 23 years old, so listen, we're not giving up on Taj Bradley. He's another one of those, your franchise sort of cornerstones for the future. But it's clear he's hit a wall this season, and I don't know if the Rays don't really have the luxury necessarily of saying, hey, we need to sit Taj down for a little bit. But it's clear, like I said, he's hit a wall, and I don't know if he's going to find that July form this year, but we've still seen good enough stuff from him that you're encouraged about his future. But right now, Taj Bradley, it's just not happening for him. Teams are all happening his way, and it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter if it's the A's. It doesn't matter if it's the Marlins, the Dodgers, all these teams he's faced. Everybody's having their way with Taj Bradley right now. So it is what it is. We did get a good outing out of Shane Baz, which was much needed for him. I think he's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but again, coming off Tommy John, got to give him time a little bit. But there you go. That was the Rays weekend in Los Angeles. Could have been, I know they lose 2 out of 3, but overall, you like to fight from the team. So it is what it is. It's really not all about wins and losses at this point for the Rays. They're going to have the Mariners come in, or they're going to go to the Mariners, by the way. They still got more of these West Coast games. I mean, you're killing me here with the 10 o'clock start time. So 3 games set against the Mariners, who just fired Scott Cervez. They're not playing well at all. We get to see Randy Arozarena, who's not playing pretty well for the Mariners either. So we'll look forward to that. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series. Last thing before I get out of here, shout out to Lake Mary Little League. Lake Mary Little League. Florida wins the Little League World Series, I believe, for the first time. They beat, what was it, Chinese type, or trying to get it right here. What was it, Chinese Taipei, right? Trying to get it right here. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Chinese Taipei. I had it right. They beat Chinese Taipei 2-1. And if you didn't see the way this game ended, by the way, again, similar to how the Rays game ended on Friday night, this was even more brutal, especially in the context that this was a Little League World Series championship game. Florida lays down a beautiful bunt. Some of the bunt you don't see in Major League Baseball anymore. The pitcher and first baseman, both of them converge in on it. Nobody's covering the bag at first. The pitcher picks it up, turns, and he throws. Doesn't look. He just throws. And nobody's there. The ball goes into the outfield. And the runner who was on second for Florida turns and comes home. And that's how the game ends. I mean, just an absolute brutal way to lose a game like that. I feel so bad for the pitcher. I mean, these are just kids. And they're playing on ESPN in front of millions of people. I mean, the pressure that they're on, it's insane. But absolutely, Lake Mary Little League, shout out to them, getting it done for the state of Florida, their first ever Little League World Series. All right, that'll do it for us today. Like I said, just an abbreviated show here on this Monday. JP will be back in the saddle tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll have plenty to discuss about what he witnessed there in Dublin on Saturday. I will see y'all on Thursday, but until then, y'all have a great and safe time out there, Tampa Bay. I'll see you then.